Today, I am going to talk about narcissistic bosses. Now, this is potentially an extremely broad topic. And I think that a lot of us, when we think of narcissistic bosses, we think of bosses that are always yelling at people, stabbing people in the back, cutting people down, and just obviously being some kind of bully, tyrant boss. In today's video, I'm going to really narrow this topic down to the type of narcissistic boss that we might not realize is a narcissist. I guess you could maybe call it a covert narcissist, or maybe a narcissist that's just really, really good at manipulating people. So that's going to be the purpose of today's video. If you are working in an environment where you don't realize that your boss is a narcissist, I want to help validate your experience and help you see your workplace in a more realistic light. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Now, I gotta give you one more disclaimer before I go on with this video. You never know who might be watching your videos, and I never know who might be watching my videos. And I just want to make it really clear at the beginning that absolutely nothing that I say in this entire video is something that necessarily happened to me specifically. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'm not going to differentiate, just in case you're so vain, you probably think this video is about you. So like I said in the introduction, some workplaces that are controlled and ruled over by a narcissistic boss might not be so obvious. They might really rope some people in and get some people really manipulated and stuck in an environment that they don't understand. Very similar to how a cult operates. That's what I really want to break down in today's video. And I have so much to say on this that I might have to break this into 2 videos. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm sure by the time I release this, you'll be able to see if there's a part 1 and a part 2. So I'm first going to just quickly go over some red flags. And then after I go over these red flags, I'm going to really dive into manipulation tactics and signs that you're working for a narcissist, and ways that you can see these in a different light and stop blaming yourself for things that aren't your fault. The first red flag is a place of business which claims to be like family. Okay, some people, some bosses might say we're like family because they think it sounds nice. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But it's a red flag. It's something that should draw your attention. It's something that you should look at closely, because a place of business is not family. It just isn't. It's real nice to think that it could be. And when we get sucked into this idea that we're family in our workplace, this is something that can really manipulate us into feeling like we owe more than we do to our place of work, to the place we go to earn a living so that we can live a life separate from the job that we have, okay? Saying that we're like family creates this obligation to help management really leverage more control over you, to make you feel like you owe more than you actually do. And like I said, not all workplaces that claim to be like family are gonna do this. Sometimes it's just an innocent, kind of silly thing to say in a work environment. But in general, if your boss says we're like family, pay attention to that and really ask yourself, why is this person saying that? Is this really something this person believes? Does this person expect more from me than is really reasonable? Does this person expect me to have an actual familial type relationship with him or her? This is something that you shouldn't just ignore, and it's certainly not something that you should accept. Red flag number 2 is a work environment in which the boss insists that this company is number 1. This company is the best company in the whole world. Nobody can come close. And whenever any other similar company or competitive company has any kind of metric that might be a little better than theirs, they flip out and they just cannot stand to think that anybody might be better than them. And they might blame their employees, or they might blame their structure, or just find something to blame, or something like they have to fix something because they have to be number one. Now, every company wants to be number one. So I'm not saying that any company that wants to be the best is a toxic work environment. But I am saying that this can be carried too far, where the boss or the owner looks at their company as an extension of their own ego and cannot stand the idea that any other company might be a little better than them at anything. And that they focus more of their time and energy on their reputation and on being the best than they do on the actual performance of the company. That's a huge red flag. And this extends into something I'm going to go over in a little more detail, which is that there is never any good reason to leave this company. If this is the best company that ever existed and nobody could ever be better, then why would you ever want to leave? There could never possibly be a good reason to leave this company. Third red flag is poor boundaries. Your boss should never be calling you after hours, or texting you on the weekends, or calling you on the weekends, or expecting you to work from home. Well, I mean, we all work from home now, right? But you know what I mean? Blurring the lines between your private time, your off the clock time, and your work time. I know this is a really common problem for a lot of people. And, not every boss that calls you after hours is trying to take advantage of you. But this is something that we really tolerate in our culture here in the US anyway, that it's really not okay. You are entitled to have private time when you're not at work, when you're not on the clock. You shouldn't have to worry about what's happening at work. At the job I have right now, I don't think my boss even knows my cell phone number. So it is possible to work in a place where they don't bother you when you're not supposed to be working. And I wish we weren't so used to this problem, but it is another red flag. Poor boundaries. Bosses that feel like it's okay to reach out to you when you're supposed to be on vacation, or spending time with your family, or just trying to eat dinner. And along with these poor boundaries comes an environment that makes the job personal. If your boss is trying to make your job some kind of measure of your self-worth, or a part of a greater expanded vision of your whole life, like this is a really important part of your personal life, your work life should be separate from your personal life. And narcissistic bosses might try to blur the lines between these two. They really are going to try to become involved somehow in your personal life, even if it's just emotionally, even if it's just in a way to convince you that your job, that your work is a big part of your personal life and your personal self-worth. And one more quick part of this red flag is an employer or a boss that feels like they have the right to check up on your social media. A boss that actually will look you up on Facebook or Instagram or whatever and go through your personal social media and then tell you things that you need to change. That's really intrusive, and I don't know how common it is. But even if you work for a company with a public face, I mean, unless you have something really egregious and offensive on your Facebook page, even then, like I said, your personal life should be separate from your work life, period. You really need to have a healthy boundary there and not tolerate bosses that try to blur that line. Okay, so those were some really quick red flags to go over, and now I'm going to expand more on the manipulation tactics that this type of a boss can employ, can try to control their employees with, to control the work environment. The first thing I'm going to expand on is this idea that nobody leaves the company on good terms. There is never a good reason for an employee to leave. The boss turns every resignation into some kind of battle. If you want to quit, there must be something wrong with you, and or you're trying to say something's wrong with the company. And these are all turned into a battle and a contest to decide who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. So this is a huge red flag. And this is something really common in toxic work environments with narcissistic bosses. You can't just leave and have it be okay, because like I said, why would you want to leave the most amazing, awesome company that's ever existed? Why would you want to go work for somebody else? Do you think somebody else is better than this narcissistic boss that you have? If this is something that you're trying to figure out at your workplace, just stop and think about all the people that have quit the place you work at, all the people that have left, and try to think, did that person leave on good terms? If so, have you ever heard from them again? Do you know that they left on good terms? Or did it just seem like they did? I mean, some narcissistic bosses might make things really ugly and really nasty for the people that try to leave, but then present a friendlier, more peaceful face to the rest of the employees. I will say, I knew somebody, so this is not me, but I did know someone that worked for somebody who seemed extremely narcissistic, and this person wanted to move out of state for no reason that had anything to do with the job place. This person just had a dream that they wanted to move. So this person went to her boss and said, I'm moving to such and such city, so I'm gonna have to put in my notice for, I think maybe it was a month or something. And this boss actually felt entitled to tell this person that they were making a bad decision, that they had no right to leave. This person forced her to leave without notice, like kicked her out, wouldn't let her finish the work that she had been working on, wouldn't let her finish certain pieces of work that actually cost her money to have to leave behind. So this was something that should not have been taken personally, but these narcissistic bosses really have extremely poor boundaries and really cannot fathom why anyone would want to leave, even if it's to move to a different state where this person wants to live. Why wouldn't you want to stay at the most amazing place that you've ever worked at? Why would you want to leave and live in another state when you've already reached the height of your accomplishment by being at this amazing company? And I will add that the people in this company generally were not aware of how nasty this was. This person was told to keep her mouth shut and not talk to anybody. So that could be something else to look out for. When people quit or walk out of your company, do they do so suddenly? And do you generally just not hear from that person again? Do they kind of just disappear and you're left wondering, what happened to so-and-so? And if you work in a work environment like this, you might be manipulated into believing that this is the greatest company that's ever existed and that you are so lucky to work here and that, they're so invested in your growth. And you might actually think that you're special because you're still there, because you're not one of the people that left, or you're not one of the people that got let go, that you've earned your way into this elite team of whatever. If you feel that way about your work environment, that's also a huge red flag. Another manipulation tactic that narcissistic bosses will use is what I would call dangling carrots on a stick. And this is where they basically future fake you. They plant ideas in your head of promotions that you might get, or raises that you might get, or whatever it is that you want. They figure out what you want, and then they vaguely promise that these things will probably happen someday if you do A, B, C, D, and E. Narcissistic bosses really need employees that are dissatisfied in some way. They need their employees continually hoping for something better, hoping and wishing and longing for a little bit more money or a better place or more flexible hours or whatever. If a narcissistic boss has a whole bunch of employees that are generally pretty happy and satisfied with their job, it's a lot harder for that person to control and manipulate these people. So narcissists will create reasons for you to be dissatisfied. They will create goals. If you don't have any goals, then maybe they'll try to plant some in your head. They'll try to come up with things that you really, really want, right? The work environment that I work in right now, everybody's just happy where they're at. Nobody's trying to climb any corporate ladders, and the boss is certainly not going around asking people what their future goals are. Your future goals should be something that you are in charge of, that you come up with, that you think of with yourself, to yourself. If your boss is sitting down trying to control and manipulate your future goals, that's a huge red flag, because that should be something personal to you. If your boss was really so worried about your future goals, then they would just promote you. They would just give you whatever it is that you're longing and hoping for, instead of getting personally involved in your future goals so that they can keep you hanging on and hoping to achieve these things if you just jump through all these hoops that the narcissist is placing in front of you. Narcissistic bosses that use this kind of manipulation might do things like make you make vision boards, or make you take personality tests, or sit and quiz you about your goals, or make you write your goals down and display them somewhere. Because a narcissistic boss like this really wants to keep in touch with what you want, what's missing in your life, what you're striving for, so that they can use these ideas to manipulate you. And so that they can make you believe that this company is the only way that you're going to achieve the things that you want personally for yourself. And like I said, employees that have everything they want and are happy and satisfied are very difficult to control. So a narcissistic boss is only going to give you enough to keep you strung along. They are never going to give you everything that you hope for from the workplace. They're going to tease you with vague promises of it may be happening in the future sometime, but you are never going to be satisfied with the job that you have in this kind of work environment. Another way that narcissistic bosses manipulate their employees is that they micromanage them. And I think a lot of us might think we know what micromanaging looks like, but there can be sneaky ways that bosses micromanage us that we might not realize are unhealthy, or crossing a boundary, or just manipulative and inappropriate. Like a boss that tells you exactly what to say to people on the phone in certain instances. Bosses that role play and tell you, like, don't say that, say this, don't say this, say that, to where you're uncomfortable talking on the phone with your boss maybe walking by and hearing you, because you know that your boss is going to talk to you later about the words that you used. That's a huge red flag. You should be able to speak as yourself in the way that you feel comfortable speaking in a healthy work environment. Narcissistic bosses might also criticize the way that you organize your workflow, the way that your files are organized, maybe like the positions that your apps on your computer are at. Like if you have your email over here and your web browser over here, they might come in and have these reasons that you shouldn't have it like that. Or software that you use that really works for you, they're going to tell you why you need to use something else. So they're really going to mess with things that you're comfortable with, really, I think, just to mess with you. Because narcissistic bosses, and a lot of bosses, let's face it, a lot of bosses really have no idea what you're doing. They couldn't do your job. I know a narcissistic boss will probably think that they can do your job, but bosses in general have you there because you are specializing in something. So they don't understand what the best workflow is. They don't understand why you have things situated the way that you do. And a healthy, mature boss is going to trust you as an adult to organize your workspace in the way that works best for you. A boss that wants to micromanage you will be always telling you why you need to change things. Now, if this is happening to you, you might think that your boss is just being helpful, but your boss shouldn't be making you feel like somebody might come in any minute and criticize the way that you're doing things that are working for you, that you're comfortable with. That's really unhealthy. It's very controlling, and it's a waste of your boss's time. Your boss should not be spending his or her time looking at how you're organizing your files or looking at the way that you organize your emails. That's something they should trust you to know how to do. And okay, there are a lot of people that might be overly controlling and micromanaging that are not narcissistic. But when a narcissist does this, it comes from this like neurotic lack of trust. Narcissists cannot trust other people. And especially if this is the narcissist's company, if they are actually the owner, they really cannot trust anybody to do anything right because they can't trust anybody. So they need you there in order for the company to function, but they cannot let go of certain things. They cannot just trust you to be an adult and do your job. They have got to control you. And by doing this, they have also got to get the message across to you that you're not smart enough to be trusted, that the narcissist knows best, that you better be remembering everything the narcissist told you, because if they come along later and you haven't implemented every stupid piece of advice that they've given you, they're going to talk to you about it for who knows how long. This can make you doubt your own judgment. This can make you feel like you're far less competent than you actually are. And it's a really huge waste of time, really. When you have a workflow that's working efficiently and you have to stop and take time to change things for no reason, it's a huge waste of time all around. It's a waste of your boss's time. It's a waste of your time. The next manipulation tactic that narcissistic bosses use is to blame you for their poor communication and their poor training. So they don't train you how to do anything, or they don't provide you with quality training, and then they get mad at you later for making mistakes that there's no way you could have known. Like, maybe you're a bookkeeper with no accounting experience and suddenly you're put in charge of all the finances, and maybe there's some tax law you didn't know about and you get in trouble when you had no training and no way that you could have known how to do certain things. You get in trouble for not magically knowing everything, when the problem is that the company has extremely poor training and the poor communication. You get blamed for not understanding what the rules are when the rules are always changing and really hard to pin down and or understand. Like, maybe everybody, when they want to go on vacation, they just all tell each other. And that's just the way it's been for years. And then one day you tell everybody you're going on vacation, and then when you get back, suddenly your boss is asking you why you didn't use the vacation calendar. And you're like, vacation calendar? Nobody ever told me about that. But it's your fault that you didn't know about this vacation calendar that nobody told you about. Now, in this type of work environment, you might blame yourself, because maybe when you told all your coworkers that you were going on vacation, maybe you did have this uneasy feeling like, is this really how to put my notice in for a vacation? Because you're never really sure if you're following the rules or not, because the rules are so unclear. So you do these things with this little voice in the back of your head saying, I don't know if this is the right way to do this. And then when you get called out later for doing it wrong, you say to yourself, I knew it. I knew I should have asked somebody else or gone the extra mile to try to understand how to do things around here. So this is something you can really fool yourself into thinking is your fault, when it is the responsibility of management to let employees know the proper way to do certain things. And it is the responsibility of management to make sure that their employees are properly trained. That is not your fault. And I am definitely going to have to make this a 2-part series. So that's it for today. Watch out for my second part of this video, which I'll probably be releasing sometime next week. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.